you go beyond anything other than the cafe or cafezinho, you should be quite specific. How do you have yours, Anna?
I have a May Adelaide
Do
most of the
you?
time. Yeah.
Right, and that's quite a
Or half a mouth.
pronunciation matter in its own right, isn't it? Still, I
Yeah.
get a little bit of a pushback. And would you agree with what James was saying earlier on, that the Portuguese have a very finely tuned ear, and pronunciation is key and very important? And we'll get you some kudos and brownie points.
Will
You know.
correct you
Mhm.
any chance they get. But I really enjoy that because it's a good sign if they want to teach you. Yeah, but
Yes.
they will correct you. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that
They will
maybe what's happening with Darren? He's taking the correction maybe a little bit personally.
Oh
So
yeah, you
what?
shouldn't do that. They're
Yeah.
just really listen. The the language it's a language, it's close to Spanish, French, Italian, etc. All those languages have one thing in common, and so the culture and the people have one thing in common. That is that they are very technical when it comes to um, their language. They are more technical languages than the Germanic languages, the ones that
Really?
we speak. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a cultural thing. Like the French, they will correct you too, because and that is also the reason why they are afraid of speaking other languages, because they if it's not perfect, if it's not, it's about it's a different, they have a different sensibility than other languages. For example, in my Flemish is much less, we're much less um sensitive to correctness, so we will not correct people who are trying to speak our language, also because there's not
Whoa.
that many, but because we don't mind, and we don't really care ourselves that much when something is not quite right. The Portuguese care, and
That's
especially when it comes,
that is
yeah,
fascinating, isn't it? That had never occurred to
yeah,
me. And there's
yeah, they
also the
care,
extension of, how people talk is how they think, of course, as well,
of
isn't it?
course,
And
yeah,
how they think is a product of their culture. So that makes, although I'd never thought of it like that, or never had
mhm,
heard that before, that makes absolute sense, doesn't it? That it
it
would make
does,
some
yeah.
people of the world very reluctant to learn other languages and be quite judgmental of people trying to speak
Well,
their language.
on the
And of
flip side
themselves
too,
also. Yeah, and of
on the
themselves. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, on the flip side of that is the
Mhm.
culture that is polite and doesn't want to step on your toes necessarily. Um,
Mm.
I, I was going to say that when I run into a Portuguese and I ask them if they speak English, they almost always say no, unless
No,
they're in a business thing. And
yeah.
then they speak to me like I am
They
speaking English now. So
yes.
there's like, no, I don't
Okay.
speak it, but there's a humility to it. And I don't know if there's fear in it or not, but there's this thing of like, no, I don't. But
If
really,
I
I
can't do
speak.
it perfectly, I better not do it at all. And
That's
Yeah.
that
where it
is,
comes from.
it's a very human thing. Many
Yeah,
people
it's
have
me
that.
for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's also a bit culturally determined. Absolutely.
Wow.
There
And
are
look at this.
there yes,
Pam has
it's
a friend who speaks English.
yeah,
Only
exactly
didn't
that.
know that for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you do get this, don't you? Have somebody saying, "I'm terribly sorry, I don't speak very
Mm,
good English." It's like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. You just yeah. Yeah.
Yes, incredible. Like
But
Israel.
they're just afraid of making mistakes because it matters to them. It matters that it's right. And also, it's not, um, we as non-Portuguese speakers, we don't always hear the difference between sounds, but they can be very important.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
That's the
Did he?
fine
the
tuning.
endings,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the female and male endings. I went to the pharmacy, of course, being the way that I am or was. I went to the pharmacy a couple of days ago, and I said I was very constipada, and I thought I said it slightly different, I think, but so she understood that I said I was constipado, and constipado is the male form. So she looked at me and she said, I think you're constipada. And I went, oh, that's what I thought I was saying, but apparently I wasn't, because she didn't, she corrected me. But
that,
I'm not.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would affect the medication though, because if you got
Maybe it was because I was a
no,
bit
but man
nasal
flu,
at that moment.
man flu has an entirely different set of meds, doesn't it? So Constance Bardot is
Yeah.
man flu. I suspect it's man flu. I mean, and she's
Yeah.
probably really surprised that no one with man flu would be able to get on their feet and go to the pharmacy. Very
No,
confusing for the woman, obviously.
very confusing.
Yes.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
maybe it was because of my nasal accent at that moment or my nasal sounds. But anyway, I didn't say it right, apparently, and she corrected me. But that is something that, I just thank them for that, because it makes me,
Mindful.
you don't grow if you don't,
Well
if no
said.
one guides you,
Yeah.
you can't grow.
I think that
And
maybe
as
what's
I don't take any lessons, I need to have those lessons from the Portuguese, because I don't have a teacher telling me I have to say it that way or that way. So
that's a book I would buy. Lessons from the Portuguese. That, I mean, because
absolutely,
it's
yeah.
culturally, again, it's not just the language, isn't it? I've seen how
No, it's
Portuguese
never
people,
just the language.
they correct each other as well, quite
Yeah.
openly, don't they? In a way that some cultures would be like, "Whoa, did you hear what that guy just said to that guy?"
Yeah.
It's yes, it is quite an open culture
Well,
of feedback.
yeah, but
Um,
if even within the same language, I mean, we have an American and a British person here in front of us. I
yeah,
do.
You do, yes.
Even within this small group of three people, I mean, culturally, there are so many differences.
yeah, yeah. It's
Absolutely.
And you both speak the same language, technically.
well, I would not agree with
Ah,
that.
I
But
wouldn't say
okay.
that. No.
We had a whole Revolutionary War over that one.
Yeah, I'm teaching him. He's doing pretty good, but I mean, it's not the same. I recently discovered that the Portuguese friend of
Yeah.
mine speaks English. Known her for 4 years. That's amazing. Now, going back to your comment earlier, James, this is all great information. Thank you, Antonio. So to us too, there's a danger when you say queria. That was the first phrase I learned. I use poder much more these days, but when you say queria, if asking for something in a shop, you might get an answer like, and it is então, eu não quero, because
Yeah.
queria is I wanted, and this is a Portuguese in joke, isn't it? And I've heard this before. I think Nelson at Palmeiras has done this on me. That happens usually when the employee knows you and is joking a bit, so be ready for it. So
you just don't use the personal pronoun. You just don't say I. You just start with queria.
Yes,
which says I would like. That's what the word means. So yes.
Yeah.
But
and you
thank you for the caution.
Yeah, and you can get in those situations, can't you, where everyone else in the Portuguese cafe is in on the joke about that, something like that, and you're not, and you're really not keeping up, and eventually just say, "It's okay, don't worry. Here's your coffee." Right. So this is.
But just keep on smiling.
Yeah, keep on smiling. They're all cracking up. So Pam, yes, Pam's had that one for sure, and Darren, this is our real moment of concern here this morning. So Darren, keep it going. I don't know if you saw this, Anna, but very mixed feelings about learning Portuguese now. Started keeping my mind open and learning as I go along, mostly reading Portuguese. I found speaking very difficult. After 9 months, look at this, getting lots of people ridiculing me for not knowing Portuguese or for learning it. So you were nodding when ditching the Duolingo might be one thing to do. Is that right?
Especially if you're working on pronunciation.
Yeah. Okay. About pronunciation. But I even lost what?
Yeah, right. We're all shocked about this, aren't
we? Yeah, I was like, what?
I'm sorry, but that's not a friend.
Yes, that's what I said.
Ah, what?
To that friend. Friend.
Who are you? You just know he doesn't need a Portuguese course in Portuguese. He needs new friends. That Darren.
You need choosing good friends, Darren.
Yeah, you need to be more selective. What is that?
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't feel embarrassed. 9 months in, there are people who absolutely refuse to utter even thank you or hello in Portuguese. I am embarrassed for them, but I don't think they should feel embarrassed. I mean, it's not me to judge, but I always go, that's strange. I wouldn't be able to live in a country for 10 years and not even try to say hello in the country's language. But also that's culture for many. It is. It's not always attitude or something else. Culture and also, I think, fear. But for Darren, don't feel embarrassed. Don't feel embarrassed. For pronunciation, there is only one way to learn to pronounce the words right, and that is to try to copy, mimic whatever you hear. Yeah, that's the only thing you can do. You do not, I don't know what Darren's nationality is, but I'm guessing he's
Yorkshire.
English speaking. Yorkshire, okay.
Yeah.
Is that a nationality?
It is, yeah. It's a subgroup of the
It's
British.
a culture.
Yeah. There is, it's very normal for English speakers to not have the ear, trained ear for sounds which are not English, because you haven't been trained. The muscle hasn't been trained ever. We, for example, the Belgians, as children, we've had music, films, everything, series, everything. You watch the telly, whatever it was not in our language most of the time. It was either French or English. We are used to hearing sounds which are not our sounds, and therefore slightly better and especially more at ease in producing sounds that are not ours. That's the reason. And the only thing you can do about it is hear more Portuguese. It's the
Brilliant.
only thing you can do. Not read. Well, read is perfect. Read is good for grammar, for structures, for recognizing words, everything. Reading is very good. If you want to
Vocabulary,
speak, yes. If you want to stop speaking like, what's his name? British Dave?
British
No.
Dave in Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't want that, please immerse yourself in Portuguese, and you don't have to actively listen. You don't have to come constantly. You can absolutely just put on the radio, whatever, or the TV, just put it on the whole day. When you're at home, whatever you're doing, just, turn on the telly and just let it in the background. It's so important to hear. You can't train your brain to hear the sounds if they never hear them.
Well
That's
said.
it.
Because as
And
I understand it, babies human beings are programmed to know all of those sounds of all the languages. The basic primordial sounds, if you like.
oh,
But
listen,
if you don't use,
the fact that you are English speaking is a coincidence. It's
yes,
because
that's
you were
right.
born in England or in US or wherever. It's a
Yeah.
coincidence. You could have been born anywhere in the world and have spoken that language perfectly and uttered those sounds perfectly. So there is no talent. There is no such thing. The only difference is, have you had the input or not?
Well
That's the
said.
difference.
Well said.
That's
Well
the only
said. And
difference.
are you familiar with these two? These are the polyglot twins, Matthew and Michael Yulden, and they speak
Mhm.
loads of languages, and they've got some
Oh
very
yeah,
helpful. I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? Is to unlearn things like, and you hit the nail on the head there, I think,
yeah.
by saying, there is people imagine, it's like an instrument, and there's a special affinity or skill with languages. And some people have got a little bit of something that helps them with that, haven't they? But if you're a human being, you learn languages, don't you? And you learn it in the
It
culture
does
that you
not
grew up in.
exist. Talent does not exist. People are so we all believe that it's not grounded in any science. There is no talent for languages. There is no such thing. Not the polyglot twins, not anyone. It's just a question of where do you put your focus on, and have you trained your brain in doing that? And
Exposure and practice. Yeah.
exposure and the affective filter, 100%. If you are afraid, frustrated, if you have experiences like Darren just had, then it's blocking your evolution. Of
That's what
course
you're
it
calling the
is.
effective filter, is it?
Of
So you
course,
find
that's the
you find reasons not to learn, and then you block yourself, and it gets
of
worse and worse.
course. I mean, I would be afraid of uttering even bon dia if someone would have,
What
said that I
shames you?
should be ashamed of how I say it.
Say
Yeah.
it better.
Yeah, screw them,
Yeah,
basically, Darren. And we're
screw
with you here,
them.
mate.
Well, I would like to throw in as a therapist, telling
Yes.
someone not to be embarrassed is not effective. You can't tell someone
No.
don't feel something. But what
No.
I would say is feel embarrassed, but don't let it discourage you. Like carry on. feel embarrassed and find a way through it. Because that's that particular situation. If it keeps coming up, it's like, if you're determined to learn the language, then you're going to have to deal with the embarrassment until you're not embarrassed anymore. But
and you can, yes,
so-
Mindful Migration Mondays is like, there's the embarrassment. Okay, yeah, that's what I'm feeling. There's the embarrassment. I see it, and you create a bit of distance, don't you? That's running in me at the moment, but it doesn't need to be. I can also remember how. I mean, if you take, for example, James's share earlier on. My dog Smells is here as well. Who, hearing what you said, James, is wow, you have come a long way, James. And what you've chosen to remember and share, James, is the absolute beauty and joy of breaking through with, remembering how poorly you, or not. I won't use a negative word, but where you were at with your grasp of Portuguese a year ago. And if you think about 5 years ago, you had none whatsoever. You didn't even know you were going to speak Portuguese. And now look at you. And someone on the screen says, well, you have come a long way, James, there from My Dog Smells. And that's the thing to associate with, I guess, isn't it? More so than the embarrassment feelings. It's like, I remember that. It happened to me. I was with Philomena. I had two situations. Bobby gave me the phone and said, here, speak to my mum. So I had to speak Irish, first of all, on Saturday afternoon. Got through that. And then on Saturday evening, it was Senor Genuino. Philomena came up to me and said, Senor Genuino is on the phone. This is the guy who sailed solo around the world twice, solo on his own. I was going to say on his own, but that's unnecessary.
That's redundant, yes.
I haven't even got a good grasp of English. And she said, here he is. Speak to Senor Genuino. And I'm like, okay. Like, hola, boa tarde, and I heard he hadn't been very well, and and see you on the program in the new year, ano próxima. And she came back in afterwards and said, he says you speak Portuguese really well. And I was like, this guy said that about me. And it's
okay, I'm not going to quit.
Yeah, I think you need some positive strokes, Darren, definitely. And, fall back on this community who I think will always be here to give you that sort of encouragement. I'm really sorry to hear about that. What's happened to you.
And do check, are they reprimanding you or are they correcting you? That's an important thing to really try to pick up on. Because if they're like being angry at you for doing it wrong, then you need to talk to someone else. But if they're simply correcting you and you're embarrassed and being sensitive to it, then that's something you control. You can change that. I don't have to react that way.
Yeah, but thank you.
Darren, I don't know where he is from.
Porto, from UK and in Porto, I believe.
Okay, that's far from here. I know, for example, of a group in Caldas da Rainha that does conversational, like just conversation tables. So they come together and they just talk or try to talk Portuguese, speak Portuguese, and try to get that out of the way. So it's not actual lessons, but just conversations that they try to have.
Yeah.
And maybe his neighbors willing to do. Maybe his neighbor's willing to do a language exchange and learn more English from Darren, and they can just do that together as a friendship.
There'll be a way, mate. Let's go through these comments and like this one. Thinking about it from Darren, my neighbor. It is encouraging. I'd like to find some classes to do more speaking and learning. They are there. Darren, have you looked for the government-sponsored classes? That's from one of our resident teachers here, Antonio F., who's always unfailingly helpful and encouraging to us.
Antonio gave me the tuning my ear thing. That was amazing help.
So.
Yes. Mrs. Donort uses drops for Euro Portuguese. Duolingo will only lead to frustration as you learn Brazilian. As well. Thank you for that. So maybe kick that into touch. Darren, search for língua portuguesa para estrangeiros. Thank you, Antonio. And Darren, it should direct you to the ACM website. That's wonderful. Got it. Thanks. Look, we may have changed the direction of his Portuguese language learning. Ha! Cooking wine for tasting. I can't. It's a glass. It's got not a cooking pan. It's a glass on the cover. I'm doing it. I'm doing it anyway. People repeat your order in the UK. They are just confirming, not correcting. There's that as well, isn't there? And I certainly feel more confident saying the words that I know I can pronounce easily. Frango. It's very good. Versus Coimbras, for example. Yes. I mean, if the fact that you've even made that joke says something about your grasp of Portuguese, Darren. So well done, mate. That was good work. And Jackie, the humble crafter, good morning to you. I started my first lesson last night and feel even more further away from the language. That happens, doesn't it? I speak Welsh. I mean, if Jackie can speak Welsh, I think she's going to be okay, right? And I'm
Oh
determined
yeah.
to keep at it, even if it means each lesson is done 3 or 4 times. Keep up the good work, Jackie. Absolutely. Pam, I think it's also something specific about us English speakers. We're used to hearing lots of variations on our language as well. That's exactly my thoughts too, says Darren from Yorkshire. And rather than ask for English, it might be better to ask, falar un poco de English. Yes, that's a little kinder and a bit more understanding, isn't it? And say, first of all, you know, that you only speak un poco de Portuguese. Folks, don't forget to hit that button only once. Okay, yeah, of course. Even on Friday night, I was chatting to someone in the pub, and he asked if I know Portuguese. I explained that I'm learning, and they said I should know it after 9 months. I often get defensive. Different pub, different friends.
Yeah.
Yes, the guy quite strongly said that I should be embarrassed for myself. He was drunk. I was so angry, I nearly poured my pint on him. Yes, but I finished the drink and left and blocked him. Yeah, well done. Give.
Good.
Yeah, that's nonsense, isn't it?
Well,
Yorkshire, can't waste. That guy was lucky you were from Yorkshire. People often say I'm lucky to have a knack for languages. They don't see the hours I put. Yeah.
indeed, Pamela.
Nothing to do with luck. Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed, Pamela. There is no miracle solution.
And as a reminder, I remind myself and other people this all the time. There's nothing that we know how to do that didn't require learning how to do it and practicing it over and over and over until we could do it. Nothing. Everything we know how to do, we had to learn.
Everything. And you look at champions in whatever field, those champions they just, you know, we only see the results. We don't see the hours and the that people have put into it, and the belief in themselves that you need to believe in the possibility and see the possibility to be able to get to where you want to.
So these are the final words, because we are coming up to Barefoot Broadcast. Thank you both for being here. Joao de Norte, can you send me your deep thoughts and dad jokes? Can you cut and paste them into WhatsApp, and I'll feature them for the rest of the week, because I've got a bit of music I want to play. It's part of love and languages and relationships. It's a bit of fado, which of course is a great way to get an insight into Portuguese culture. Regarding Mer de Leite pronunciation issue, I compare it to saying in English, let's go to the look. Let's go to the lake. Just a tiny change of sound, it also becomes unintelligible to us. Very good, Joao de Norte. Chat Club is open online to everybody, but the first rule of Chat Club is to speak about it, of course. You guys made me laugh today. Thanks, Darren. It's a pleasure. I hope we have helped this one. I really do. And Sky of the Shires, a round of applause. Right, bit of fado to end the show today. Apparently, when a young gentleman was serenading his beloved up at a window, 3 switches of the light would indicate approval from the young lady. And other passers-by in the street, this is another way of speaking Portuguese, it's non-verbal. If you were a passer-by and you were hearing a young fado singer serenading his beloved up in the window, you couldn't start clapping, because that would kind of spoil the moment, wouldn't it? Can you imagine a group of passer-bys? It'd be like fado dogging. It would be terrible. Instead of them all clapping and giving a big round of applause, apparently, if you're Portuguese and you hear a serenader hoping to woo the loved one up in the window, you would just simply, when they finish, you would just go and walk away. Isn't that nice?
Well,
what are you laughing at?
Who told you that?
The guy at the Fado show, who you're going to hear now. He's a doctor, not a Fado, I found out, but he is a doctor. Thank you both, you legends. It's been so helpful this morning. Anna, thank you so much. Portuguese Immersion Experience. Get in touch with Anna if you want to learn how to speak Portuguese with confidence and aplomb. And James, of course, here with us every Monday for some mindful migrationness. Do join us for the rest of the week, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great week, you two, and we'll finish with a little bit of fun. And you can cough, or you can turn the light on and off 3 times, or cough at the end. Okay, yeah, have a great week. Bye. All together now.
Bom dia, Portugal! In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.